if we're not paying attention, sometimes we might miss what's going on right in front of us. And sometimes that's the intention. I think yesterday I was watching part of the Ravens game, and there was one particular play, and there's a lot of football that's like a chess match. You're trying to figure out what your opponent's going to do, and you're trying to anticipate, and then sometimes you second guess, and there's the pass fake or the handoff fake, and sometimes the defensive line falls for it, and sometimes they don't. There was one great play that Lamar acted really well, and I thought they had the aerial view as the play unfolded, and I was watching who I thought had the ball. And in fact, all of the Browns thought he had the ball too, and it created this big hole, and Lamar just ran right through it for a big gain because they were trying to deceive. That's the whole point of it. And so everybody's attention went where it was supposed to go in the play, and Lamar got away with a big opening and a big gain. And there are a lot of times we miss what's going on. Sometimes it's because that's what we're led to believe. And it's a reminder that we've got to be paying close attention, really keeping our eye literally on the ball. And that's what the synagogue officials miss. They're there honed in on Jesus' minuscule breaking of the Sabbath because he stretched out his hand. And they missed the mighty deed. They missed the manifestation of divine presence because they were looking for the wrong thing. They were looking at the minute details, and all they saw was Jesus violating this rule without recognizing the great joy of the miracle that was right before their eyes. The mandate today from St. Paul in the letter to the Ephesians, behave like God, be imitators of God. Easier said than done on so many levels, because at the first level it's, well, what is it that God wants us to do? What is it that God puts forth as the example in his Son? Those who were looking to Jesus were somehow missing what he was really about and getting distracted by the little things. And so for us to be imitators of Christ, first we have to really be focused in recognizing what it is that Christ is actually doing and wants us to follow. Those who witnessed the earthly Jesus and his mighty deeds were always, or often at least, missing the point, because they had expectations about what holiness would look like. They had expectations about what the law would demand. And Jesus often turned things around. We heard it yesterday in the parable of the two people at prayer, the Pharisee and the tax collector, and everybody would have initially said, oh, of course, the Pharisee was right, because he was tithing, he was giving alms, he was praying, he was visiting the synagogue, doing his duty, and he was the one who was in the right. And Jesus said, oh no, not him, the sinner. That's the one we lift up, not what we'd expect. So being imitators of God is certainly requiring us to discern more keenly with a vision of what God really wants us to see. And that's sometimes very difficult to see indeed. That whole movement a number of years ago about what would Jesus do is really the question, but it's a harder question to answer than we might at first think. That we believe we're doing God's will. The people who followed Jesus, the Pharisees, the temple officials, the synagogue officials, they all believed that they were faithful, and Jesus was right there saying, no, you're missing the point. And that was hard news to hear. So asking that question, striving to follow Jesus and to be imitators of God, definitely easier said than done. Today, let's simply be mindful of that call and place ourselves in that place where the Spirit can inspire, can build us up in our own courage to do the difficult thing, the unpopular thing, the uncommon thing, as the Lord might lead us to do. But let us also not be afraid to discern deeply and perhaps to experience in our own hearts the voice of the Lord calling us to what we might not think is the right answer.